What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Martian and Ozzy podcast. This week, we're going to be analyzing the UFC 273 card, headlined by Volkanovski versus Korean Zombie, the rematch between Aljamain and Peter Yan, and of course, Gilbert Burns versus Khamzat Chimaev. Amazing fight card going down this Saturday. I'm really excited for it. Stoked to be back with my man Ozzy after our week off last week. So, how was the past 2 weeks been for you, Ozzy, and how we doing this week?
I love it, man. We're going right at leaving Q1 right there. Great pay-per-view card we're stepping into here. Lot of news, right? A lot of insider trading going on. Baseball season starting. I just love everything's going on right now. Good time for MMA betting. Obviously, I hope PFL stays around because that's another big event that we have. After Q1, right? When we head into the spring, Bellator is on like every month or maybe twice a month sometimes. PFL and then obviously
Con-
UFC and all the
Contender
other
series?
regional cards. So contender series coming. Oh, that's a little later. But yeah, this is I think when like MMA season like really kicks into form. You got people that fought maybe in January, February, getting fights again. So you have like recent tape as well. And yeah, everybody's getting in the flow of things. Everybody's happy because it's not cold anymore. Spring season's upon us, and hopefully we continue. We get back on pace. I had a little bit of little rough run with some variants, making good bets still. But yeah, very excited to get back to this pay per view card. And hopefully get some winners and an exciting fight card for sure.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. The getting these the crowd back in the audience back in the building is
Oh
really
yeah.
good. The Columbus crowd. It was a pretty shitty crowd, but like it still felt like good to have like fans in the arena watching. Obviously, we're gonna be in front of a sold out arena in Jacksonville, I'm sure. And
A lot of MMA Twitter's gonna be in attendance, I hear,
uh,
So
really, really all I know is
I I hope no scraps about the insider trading, takes place.
that's true,
So
that's
that's
true.
I hope, I heard Billy Walters and Phil Mickelson, they don't get along too well after their little snafu. So I hope MMA Twitter is able to be friendly with each other.
That's true. We could have another Badr Hari glory situation in our hands. And quick recap of last week or 2 weeks ago for me. The last card, Dawkins Blades, 1.14 unit profit for me, and our best bet parlay did win two underdog plus money bets. Mateus Nicolau sharp bet by you, and then Mark Casey,
Ooh,
even sharper
very
bet by
sharp.
me. Yep. And what about you? What your overall results? Max Griffin would have made the night a big night, but like you said, some variance
Yeah.
there. We're making good bets.
Man, I mean, you look at this like the bets that I lost. Max Griffin, right? Obviously great dog pick. He that second round contentious, started off really strong. I was talking to you just now, like, Max Griffin, after that fight, 7-8 indecisions. Neil Magny does what he does, 15-2 indecisions. You don't put that guy away, you don't put a stamp on the rounds. This guy just claws his way back. So respect to him. Good fight by him, good bet, I think overall. Nah, probably biggest bet of the night. Didn't hit there. I was feeling good about it. Obviously, dropped him in round one or took him down. Finished strong. Got caught with that spinning back fist. And then that Ascar by submission. Love that. Love that bet. Obviously, he was twisting Kai Car France up a few times, so I thought that was a good bet either way. And probably the only bad bet was thinking that Sarah McMahon would be able to find a submission or quit, and she did neither. Typical Sarah McMahon, just always letting people down, other than her money line betters. But yeah, I mean those are all good bets. I feel I don't regret any of them. So yeah, we're coming. We're gonna continue on. Think up a little less than 10 units, 9 units maybe, for the first quarter. Down from like the high of like 20 units, give or take. But yeah, just make good bets. The results are what they are, and hopefully come out on the right side of them.
Yeah, only 8 units profit for me for the first 3 months, and but I'm excited for the second quarter, like you said. And with that being said, let's get into these first of 13 fights. Really good prelims, stacked main card. Really looking forward to these main card fights, and let's get right into it. We got bantamweight division, Julio Arce taking on Daniel Willie Cat Santos. Santos making his UFC debut. Julio Arce minus 180. Daniel Santos plus 155. So we got New York City versus Brazil here. You want to start this one off, Ozzy?
Yeah, sure. So, obviously, Arce double the fights of Santos, proven UFC guy coming off that KO loss to Song Yadong, where it was mildly competitive, and then he just got bonked with that right head kick. Coming in here, it's interesting to look like, obviously I think I mentioned before, Charles Oliveira, right, UFC champion. So what happens hot on the heels of that? You got to sign one of his boys, right? You got a UFC belt, you get two friends in the UFC, and Daniel Santos is the first one. I think the guy's kind of legit. He's fought on some good cards, right? Brave FC, ACA, ACB, what all the A's, ACC is next. I would assume they just rebrand whenever an oligarch gets taken down over there. They rebrand. What's the deal over there? Are they gonna still do ACA cards with the war going on? Like, do they have any of those guys in the war? Nobody talks about the Russians that are at war. They only talk about the Ukrainians. But I wonder if they have. Don't you wonder, dude?
I
If
think
they
they did.
have.
They had ACA like 2 or 3 weeks ago. I'm pretty
Did
sure.
they? I wonder though if they have any of these motherfuckers like, yo, you're going to fucking war. They should do something like that. I'd like Amosov to get some heads. But anyway, um, yeah. So Santos, I mean, this guy's a finisher. The only fight that he lost was a decision L. He throws spinning back kicks like they're going out of style. And spinning back fists as well. And he's fought some legit competition, right? The Silva guy was like 8-0, 9-0 when he fought him. He finished him. So and he's been out for a while now. Going through this prime, his prime 20s. So I expect some improvement. I've heard that this action coming in on Santos is a bit sharp, but he's fighting the guy in Arce, very layered striker, southpaw, good jab. Keeps his guard up pretty high. He got hit with that head kick by Song, but his hands were up. It hit his arms and then like it kind of bonked his head off of that. So he keeps his defense pretty tight. He's still down at 135. He's getting a little up there in age, but he's very, very well rounded. I think that if he could draw out some of these attacks with feints from Willie Cat, I think he's going to start having success later on, landing the more accurate punches, possibly going into the clinch and looking for takedowns. Arce's not really that much of a leg attack kind of guy. He kind of gets these takedowns from the clinch. He goes for trips, slips around to the back, and he's very proficient in jiu-jitsu. This guy was like a black belt, 10 years ago when I was like competing and doing tournaments. I was seeing him in no-gi competition. So I'll side with Julio Arce here. Like I said, I've heard that the movement on Santos is sharp, but I'd be looking at possibly Arce here, possibly by decision or maybe on FanDuel, one of those double chance props where it's a submission or decision, because I feel if Willie Cat goes a little later on and Arce gets this fight down, I do think that a submission is possible. And I think Arce I think that this might be one of the last fights on his contract, so I do think that he's looking to get a win here. So that I think that the decision line at plus 150 is worth a look potentially as well, as opposed to laying the juice.
Yeah, I think you're right about that last fight in the contract. This is his eighth fight in the UFC, so logic is the 4-4. And both these guys are cool. Santos does seem promising, training out of shoot to box, but has not fought for 2.5 years. Last fight was 2019 December. So you got to wonder what he's been doing with that time off. I'm sure he's improved, like Ozzy was saying. He was supposed to fight Marcelo Rojo and Timur Valiev. Those fights got canceled. And it's been 6 months since those fights were scheduled. So maybe he had an injury before them. I'm not really sure. But what I'm seeing from the guy is, like I said, he does look promising. Looks like a really good offensive striker, but he doesn't really offensively grapple. Doesn't seem to have much grappling upside. The fight that he lost was him getting taken down over and over again by some Russian dude. But he's going to be probably the smaller guy than Arce. He doesn't have grappling upside. It's his UFC debut. He has 2.5 year layoff. It just seems like too many, possible question marks, red flags to be backing him here against an established UFC vet like Arce. And I mean, when you don't have like a multifaceted threat, like grappling and striking, I really feel like, or if you're not a really high level striker like Dawadu or Song Yadong, I really feel like Arce is still a pretty high quality fighter, and I think that Arce should be pretty safe to win this fight. I think that he can, possibly win the striking with his experience and this size, and then he should have all the grappling upside in this fight. So I like Arce. I think he's very capable of covering his price tag, and I think it's kind of like a favorite or pass situation. So I think Santos will stick around. He'll definitely win UFC fights, but this is a tough test to make his UFC debut. And that's going to take us to the next fight. By far, I wouldn't say by far because this is speculation, but this seems to be the fight getting the most action out of any of these 13 fights, which is just amazing to me. It's in the women's strawweight division. We have Piera Rodriguez making her UFC debut. Kay Hansen, I almost said a record, but Kay Hansen fighting again, second time in 2022. We got Piera minus 113, Hansen minus 107. I'm pronouncing her name right? Piera, Ozzy?
Yeah, Piera. I call her Perra just because I want her to be a dog in that cage. But yeah, Piera's cool.
um, that's good right there. But so this seems like a pretty striker versus grappler matchup, right? Hansen is definitely at her most comfortable when grappling. Piera does have some solid offensive boxing. I'm mildly impressed with her offensive boxing. It seems like she's got some good pop behind her punches, which goes a long way in the women's division. And man, I'm just a Kay Hansen hater. I'll come out and say it. We cashed on Jazz Davidius, probably one of the best money line bets of all of 2022 so far, and was a great read there. And Hansen just fought really poorly in that fight, right? She's fighting a big, strong Canadian woman, 125-pounder. And if you watch Jasmine's fights, she was a bad striker. She's not comfortable at striking range. She gets hit a lot. But when the fight gets in the clinch, she can use her strength, her size, her grappling to make these fights close. So if I'm a coach going into that game plan, I'm saying let's not wrestle the bigger woman. Let's just throw punches. Let's just strike with her because Jasmine was not throwing strikes at all in that fight. But, just a really terrible approach from Hansen there. Her coaches told her it was 1-1 going into round three. It was clearly 2-0 for Jasmine. And then maybe Hansen won round three, but she lost the decision super clearly. So bad performance there. And then, like a week or two later, she already accepted this fight against Piera. So it's not like she went back to the drawing board and is saying, let's improve where I was, weak in the fight. She just accepted this fight right away. She said, okay, 125 is not working. Let's cut back down to 115. And I don't know, man. I just don't get good vibes from Hansen. She trains at kind of a smaller gym where I think she's pretty much like the highest level woman fighter there. While Pierre,
No, they got a few people there. They got a few people there.
but you said Pierre
I don't
trains
know
with
who,
Dern,
but they got
right?
a few people.
Pierre trains with
Piera, yeah,
Dern.
Piera's like in like I think she's at that Rufka gym.
Tabitha Reese
Black.
is there too, maybe or something.
Yeah, they're all cross training. Yeah.
Yeah, so like she's got some other UFC, bodies there against her, and Piera, the striking should be, rather one sided for Piera. We haven't really seen Piera like strike with another competent woman, so maybe Hansen has some success, but the wrestling also, you got to think favors Hansen. She probably is the better grappler, but we haven't seen Piera look like a bad grappler, right? She had one fight against a woman named like Haracho, and she was briefly taken down there. She stood right back up and she started outboxing the woman and won 30-27. So, the people who are confident in Hansen don't really make sense to me. Like if there was tape out there of Pierre looking terrible as a grappler, I would say, okay, back Hansen. But I don't know. This seems like a pretty justified 50-50 fight to me. I'll be leaning. I don't know, man. I've been kind of going back and forth with this one. I know which side you're on, but I guess I'll go Hansen just because I could see if her getting one takedown in the center of the cage, it could be the end of the round. It could be a submission. So I feel like Hansen, all she needs is a couple takedowns to win, while Pierre needs to stuff takedowns. She needs to outbox her. Her cardio needs to hold up. She needs to stay off the cage. So I feel like Hansen needs a lot less to go right for her, but I would be very happy to see Hansen lose. Pierre seems like the cooler fighter of the two. So, passes.
Yeah. This I love this fight. So I mean this is a hilarious fight. I mean, obviously you see everyone has like a super strong take on this fight. A lot of line movement going ping ponging back and forth. I mean, I just can't at Kay Hansen in any facet, any way. Um the move up to 125. Now she's the OnlyFans thing. She's like bitching about the weight class now. The cutting down to 150. Bro, the girl's 5'3". Like there's no reason. Like I'm not trying to fat shame. There's no reason she should have a hard time making 115 at all. To the point where you're taking on a girl like Jasmine, in your third, fourth UFC fight. I don't know what it is. But look, Kay Hansen, man, there's a reason this girl's 7-5 in MMA. You know what her record in boxing is? 1-4. She just finds ways to fucking lose fights. It just is what the two fights that she had, right? The Corey McKenna and G.U. Frey. They are arguably both women are atom weights, right? Like those are two girls that would be viable to cut down to 105. If it was possible. Overall, I just feel like Hansen, yes, the takedown threat is there, and you saw it in that Jasmine fight. She did get in on the hips a few times. She got her against the fence. She was trying to pull the double leg out, but Hansen, she's okay with going to her back very often. If you're doing any kind of get up stuff, coming up, she'll jump for a triangle. She'll jump for a guillotine. She'll just roll over to her back. And from there, I really don't think she's catching Piera in like a submission or something like that. The fight with Svetlana, I should know that name really well because I don't remember where I remember the Svetlana. I think it was like the Real World, or there was like one chick on some reality show. Her name was Svetlana, and she had like a huge rack, and I fell in love with her. One of the listeners, I guarantee you, will know who I'm talking about. Mention to me. I don't know which show
Svetlana was in The
on.
Sopranos. There was the Russian woman with
There was
one
a
leg.
Svetlana there.
Yeah.
Okay, but no, this is a different. This is like a reality show. But anyway, so Svetlana. Okay, people don't know this about Svetlana. So first of all, I thought Piera, her defensive grappling and her reactions, actually, how she covered the top, when she was on top, defended some takedowns and stuff in that fight. I was very impressed. I actually thought it was very, very good. And Svetlana actually has, she has some decent wins. She actually has a win over a girl that Kay Hansen fought. I can't pronounce her name. Her last name is Surmova, I think it is. So Kay Hansen actually fought her too, and she lost, and Kay actually lost to her, if I'm correct. And Svetlana actually fought Weili Zhang back in the day. Who would have known? So she was legit. And I thought Piera looked pretty good, looked okay in that fight. Yes, she got taken down a little bit later in that fight, but I feel like Kay going down to 115, bitching about this weight cut. If she's like in shape, if she's doing her cardio, if she's doing all that stuff, I don't think this cut is a problem. But I don't really think she is doing that. I think this cut down to 115 is not going to be great for her. I didn't really see a lot of energy from her in that fight against Jasmine. Like it was a contentious fight, even if you thought it was 1-1. Like she didn't really come out in that third round, I thought, very well. I just think that's Piera's going to be able to land a jab. I think she's going to be able to stay away from some of these takedowns. But it's a pick'em fight, right? I bet Piera at plus money. I'm feeling a little better though as the week goes on. I'm kind of thinking after looking at Kay again, I just feel like she's not gonna fight optimally. Like this girl, she just, like I said, she just loses fights. Like she was gonna lose that G.U. Frey fight if she didn't land that armbar, that miracle armbar. She was a big dog on the live line, and switching out from camps. She used to, the best time her jiu-jitsu and her whole MMA game was when she was in Invicta, right? In Invicta, she was looking amazing, right? She was landing all these takedowns, keeping top position, twisting bitches up, all that stuff. But what was she doing back then? That was back when she was training with 10th Planet, jiu-jitsu. That was back when her boyfriend was Keith Krikorian, who, shout out to him, just won ADCC trials in the 66 kilogram weight class, looked amazing. That they were dating back then. So this bitch was grappling a lot with him day and night, if you know what I mean. and they broke up. She went to like another gym. She got away from some of this grappling stuff. She's like training with, I don't know, talking about training with TJ Dillish. I don't know what she's doing in that CSW gym, but obviously not a great gym if they're watching that fight cage side and thinking that she won any of the rounds against Jasmine Jasavicius. So I think I'm backing Piera here. I might add on her, but I don't want to pay too much juice. So I'm a little bit, wary of it. But I just don't think that Kay is gonna be getting this top position as much as people think she is. So if I was gonna play Kay Hansen, let's get that sub prop. It's plus 450, 400. Why don't you play, like, why aren't we on that? That's a sub 20% outcome. If Kay's winning is from takedowns and from taking her back, mounting her, Piera maybe gets taken down, UFC jitters, tries to pop up really quickly, gives up her back, and Kay jumps on it. But I just can't trust this girl, man. OnlyFans, cutting down to 115. She doesn't want to. 7-5 in her career, 1-4 in boxing, switching camps all the time. Fucking yeah.
All right.
So Piera's been gearing up for this. I like her. Let's go with her.
Sounds good there. That's
Not
gonna
the
move us
strong. I'm
along.
not super committed. Not super committed, but I think
I
that
mean, you
there's a
got
little
plus
edge
money. I mean,
here still.
yeah, you already made the
I
right
think there's
bet.
still a little edge here, but like I said, that sub prop, bro, is plus. It was plus 500 on FanDuel. Like
Yeah, if
that's a big
Hanson's
number.
winning, it's by grappling, so we might as well take
That's a
that.
big
So,
number.
middleweight fight next. Josh Friend coming in here on short notice. Anthony Hernandez taking on Josh Friend. We have Hernandez minus 190, Fremd plus 165. You got any faith in the LFA veteran Fremd here?
Not really. Fremd's been the guy. I was keeping up with him in the LFA. Obviously, LFA sends a lot of these guys over to the UFC, especially in these actually in these higher weight classes as well, just because the prospects are fewer and far further between. So that they often get matched up here in these fights. I've been a supporter of Fluffy Hernandez. Overall, obviously he hasn't been as active as I wish he was. I don't know if he had some other fights scheduled that ended up falling through. But this guy's got a pretty good motor. Obviously, the durability issues is what some people point to when thinking that he can't be trusted. But Josh, you don't really like like what's his deal? He fought this guy Joel in the last fight. Joel is a former college wrestler. Didn't really look to grapple really well in that fight, and Josh was just able to take over and I think get a finish in that fight. But his chin is super up in the air. I think it'll still be a competitive fight. I will say. I think it will be competitive, but the fact that Anthony Hernandez has been in these very contentious fights, the fact that I know that his gas tank and is able to help him find the finish later on in fights, and he's able to build up. He's got like a very steady pace, whereas Josh I feel is a little bit frantic. He's a really tall middleweight, at 6'4". So I think he's used to these dudes folding a lot, right? He's got a lot of round one finishes. He has that one fight against Sky Hanato where I didn't rewatch the fight for this one this time around, but I watched it a few weeks ago when he was getting ready for that for his last fight, and I came away thinking that that he wasn't really ready for the UFC, right? I think he's gotten a little bit of good matchmaking overall. I think some of these guys have been a little bit not one dimensional, but a little bit either their physicality is lacking or their skills are lacking. And what I think Anthony Hernandez, he's fought guys on both ends of the spectrum, guys that are very talented and guys very skilled, and guys that are very physical like Hidalgo, right? And he's shown that he's very competent in a lot of areas. So I kind of like him here. Obviously the line's gone up to minus 200, so I don't think I would back him at that price. I do think it'll be competitive, so I'll be looking for a live entry on Hernandez. But this is, the over under is set at 1.5. But I do think that Hernandez could start to pull away from Josh as it goes later. But because I'm not confident in him being able to have grappling upside here in getting takedowns and pushing it, I don't think that he's a very good play at this minus 200 price tag. But I will pick him, to win.
Yeah, so I don't think you can be backing Hernandez at this price either. I mean, this guy's fights are just are wild, honestly. They're volatile, they're back and forth. They typically finish. This guy's definitely like a killer be killer type of fighter. And I just don't think he fights with enough process or, reliable outcomes or whatnot to be backing him at minus 190. I mean, I don't think he's really looked minus 190 in any. I mean, even the fights he won against Park and Vieira and Jordan Wright. I mean, I guess he smoked Jordan Wright pretty easily, but this guy was also hurt to the body by Maluka Perez and Kevin Holland. Got finished by both of them off of body shots. So not the best sign for the future. You think that uh, you'd be able to take some of those body shots, but I mean, I don't know. I mean, body shots are weird. Sometimes, like no matter all the conditioning in the world you could do, just the right place shot can shut you down. But I mean, Friend is a big athletic guy. I mean, the guy is 6'4", huge middleweight. It definitely seems like he has some pop in his punches. Most of his wins come by knockout in round one. And he doesn't really look like a good grappler. We haven't seen him grapple much, but there's a fight against a guy named Gidron back in 2018, and he did not look like a good grappler there. So if Hernandez pushes the takedowns and grapples heavy here, he could cover that price tag. But if the fight stays standing, man, this is going to be back and forth, volatile. These guys are going to be swinging, trading. I think one guy is probably going to get knocked out at some point here on the feet. And I'll take Friend here for a small bet. Half unit, three quarters of a unit, or something. He's getting into. He's probably been on the fringe of the UFC for a while now, getting this short notice call up. And I think he'll be ready for this one, and I think he's really got a good chance to hurt Hernandez here in round one. So look out for a Friend upset, maybe even a Friend knockout in the first round. And that's going to take us to the next fight, which pulling up Tapology. We got amazing fight here, rescheduled fight. It was supposed to be Oleinik versus Latifi. That would have been incredible. A bit of a bummer we lost that one, but they got a good replacement. Jared-Vanderaa coming in here on short notice. Alexei Oleinik. This fight is a pick'em, dead even at minus 110 right now. And you know, you can't feel too great about Vanderaa considering he is coming in on short notice. The guy does typically weigh in right at 265, so the dude cuts weight for heavyweight. But you check his Instagram, the guy's been in the gym a lot lately. Ever since he lost to Arlovsky, he's been posting pics in the Instagram in the gym nonstop. Did a jiu-jitsu tournament, I think 2 weeks ago. So the guy's been training. He's been active. I'm sure he's going to make the weight. I mean, when you're that obese, it's not that hard to shave down a few pounds to make 265. But the guy does typically have good cardio in round three, right? The Tafa fight was a good 3 round performance. He won round three against Arlovsky, and you might think that his cardio might not be as tip top shape considering it's short notice, but still. Vanderaa here, I think he's got to be the side, right? I mean, Oleinik is 43 years old, 100 fights into his MMA career, and Oleinik obviously needs takedowns to win, right? He's not gonna. I doubt he's gonna outstrike Vanderaa for long periods of time without significantly slowing down. And so Oleinik's going to need takedowns, but this guy's takedowns are like almost guard pulls at this point. Like he just gets a body lock and like tries to like fall to the ground like with you. It's like some self-defense jujitsu takedowns, honestly. And I don't know, man. I just don't trust this guy's wrestling enough to get Vanderaa down. I mean, Vandeرا's he was hard to hold down with Romanov in round one. I mean, Romanov took him down in round one, and Vanderaa was able to get back to the feet. He stood up a few times. He got back the distance. So if he is stuffing and disengaging from the takedowns from Alexander Romanov, I don't think he's going to have much trouble with the takedowns of 43-year-old Oleinik. Um, Obviously, there's a difference in top position between the two, but still, I think Vandeرا's takedown defense is good enough. I think his cardio obviously has the advantage here. He's very likely to win round three if the fight gets that far, and I think his striking is good enough to give Oleinik some issues on the feet as well. The only possible issue with Vanderaa is the guy doesn't have much power, right? So if he's outstriking Oleinik, he's going to have to keep it together for the full 15 minutes, stuff takedowns, outstrike him. And, Oleinik doesn't necessarily get knocked out easily. He gets hurt often, but he is a little hard to finish. So I could see Vanderaa having some trouble getting him away, but still, I think Vanderaa should be good to win a decision here, maybe even get a knockout. So I think there's value on Vanderaa. Don't go crazy on the short notice heavyweight, but man, I really think he should be 55, 60% here minimum. So there's big value on Vanderaa.
Yeah, excuse me. Yeah, man. I was, honestly
What do you think?
devastated when I was devastated when that Latifi Oleinik fight fell apart. I was super disappointed. I was really I was really hoping they would reschedule that. I don't know what's going on with Latifi. He's running scared, but I mean, I agree with you in this fight. And Oleinik, he went life and death with fucking Vandeرا's very close
Spivak.
brother, Sergey Spivak. Yeah, Spivak and Vanderaa have to be like distant cousins. Very like I mean, these guys are just big, ugly, stupid, not very skilled.
Both B
And
minus strikers though.
yeah, you can't knock him out. Or no, sorry, Tom Aspinall knocked him out as I predicted. But yeah, I mean the thing is with Oleinik is just I can't. I mean Oleinik, he had that career performance against Verdum. Like I don't know what the fuck happened that fight. Like this
Right.
dude honestly looked like he could be like top 3 heavyweight in that fight. And I don't know what it like. Oleinik's fighting for money right now. Let's be clear. I think he's got like 3 daughters. I think he might have 2 wives. But he said that it's expensive living down in Florida. But I don't even know where does Oleinik train? Does he train at ATT?
I
He
think so.
must not.
Yes, I think he
Does
does.
he?
I
Maybe.
do.
Okay, so he might get some tips from Arlovsky. But I mean, there's some people that think that Vanderaa beat Arlovsky. I'm not one of those people, but I do think that if that same fight happens against Oleinik, he's definitely gonna win.
For sure.
So Oleinik has to hopefully drag Vanderaa down. I need to go back and look at this fight one more time, like once again, because I really do feel that there's likely value on Jared here, which is crazy to say, which is why I'm not like, you know, going too far ahead of getting too far ahead of myself. But I do think potentially there is some value in this dude Jared. But he's taking this fight on like what 2 weeks notice, and I don't like that a lot for this dude because the same shit happened against what's his name, Romanov, right? I think Romanov was short, and he got mauled, and that was not fair. They should not give anybody Romanov on short notice. It's not fair. And he got destroyed in that fight. But here, this dude Oleinik is gonna have to just drag him down. He's gonna have to get to a clinch. I don't think I've ever seen. Maybe I'm misremembering, but I don't really think I've ever seen Oleinik land like a single leg or a double leg. Like I don't remember. I don't even recall this guy's takedowns. All I remember is his, Ezekiel chokes. But I mean, if you're Vanderaa, man, this is silver platter. It's like, yo, this is finally a guy who gives up, right? He's been standing TKO'd a few times, and it's easy to hit him. So go do your thing. Like this guy went life and death with Maurice Green 2 years ago. Okay,
That was the
there's no
last time he
reason.
was favored too. He's been an underdog in every fight since then.
What I'm saying. So like, we're at pick'em price here. Jared, he's been competitive with some of these guys. Like you said, this guy's got no quit in him. Hopefully he doesn't tap to the Ezekiel choke, right? Make him put you to sleep, bro.
Black
And
belt Team Quest.
yeah, fake black belt from Team Quest. Nobody there has ever seen a gi. Dan Henderson has not rolled jiu-jitsu in at least 15 years. And but I just don't think that Jared's really getting caught with that scarf hold bullshit because he's massive. That would be so embarrassing if he did. But I gotta see him on the scales. He got pulled from one of his fights. Which one was the fight that he got pulled? The Mirzakhanov fight. He got pulled from that fight. Like I gotta see this guy on the scale. I don't think this line is gonna move all that much, but I do want to have. I love betting on pick'em fights, and I love betting on heavyweight fights. So I'm gonna side with Jared. TBD on the bet, but I do think he could land on Oleinik. I do think he could defend in the clinch, stay safe, and work his way to a decision or maybe a finish. Later on in the
One
fight.
thing to monitor here, Oleinik's weight too. Oleinik versus Verdum, Lewis, and Spivak. The 3 fights he had some success in recently. He weighed 227, and the Dawkins fight where he just looked terrible, he weighed 240. So
Oh,
if
good
Oleinik
point.
comes in north of like 235, that means he's coming in for that check, and he ain't
How about
interested in what are you to
how
say?
about this one? Yeah, what about the starts round two? Minus 128 on FanDuel, minus 150 on some other books. The over 1.5 for you is basically even money. You
Yeah,
want to dabble?
I don't understand that. How is that fight going to finish in round one?
Dude, I
45
really don't
of the
see
time.
Oleinik tapping him in round one.
No,
Like
no, and I don't see
I don't see
Vanderaa
that.
knocking him out in round one. That might be
That's
that might be the bet right there. That might be the bet. Starts
oh,
round
that's
two.
gonna be painful. Yeah. All right, well, let's move on to the
We
next fight.
got next fight welterweight. Mickey Gall taking on Mike. Is it Malott or is it Malott? What is it?
Malott.
Malott.
He's going
So
Malott.
Malott minus 190, Mickey Gall plus 165. What are your thoughts on this one?
This is a very interesting fight because it's the classic, right? We love this one, right? Bettors love the Contender Series favorite, right? We love this shit. And Mike Malott, I think, is an absolute fraud bag. And I was against him in the Contender Series fight, but unfortunately, I'm not anti-Semitic, but that Jewish kid was not ready for. He's like 20 years old. I don't know what was going on. I don't know if they did a favor to Uriah Faber. They were like, hey man, let's give your guy a little bit of a softball here. We got this kid from Israel who's a little bit green. Maybe your guy could tap him out. And I just can't believe he got caught in that guillotine right away. But Malott went straight to his back in that fight. Malott used to fight at 140. This guy fought Hakeem Dawodu back a few years ago and was getting smoked in that fight, by the way. And so he's fought as low as 145. He's fought like 48 seconds in the last like 4 years or something. Like, I don't think this guy's about this life, to put it very simply. I know he was at Team Alpha Male for a while, and he was training with all those guys. He was like holding pads and all that shit. And I guess the Contender Series opportunity came around. They were like, hey, you're good enough. You don't need to have to been active. We're gonna give you a bump. Don't worry about it. And get this W. But going against Mickey Gall, I know a few guys in the Mickey Gall camp, and they said they're like, hey man, like yeah, this dude's legit for sure, blah 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 blah. But he fought terribly against Alex Morono, like just the most awful, IQ fight that you could put out there. Not using his strongest attributes, which is his grappling. But he's down in Sanford MMA for this camp. I think he knows, right? I think he's lost. I don't know how many fights. How many fights in a row has he lost? A few.
Just one, I think.
Oh,
To
just one.
Morono,
Oh, I
because he
forgot the
beat
Jordan Rings.
yeah.
But he knows that, like, he's like 8-5, 7-3. I don't know what his freaking record. What is it? 7-4. So he's about to have a K Hansen fucking record if he loses this fight. So I think he knows that, and he's investing in himself. I think he's taking it serious, and I think in this fight, this guy's got a good chin. Like, the finishing props here on Malott are insane. Like, they got Malott KO. Let me pull this up right now. This is an insane.
What?
Price.
Why is it that? Why is
It's
it 2-1?
Dude, it's fucking crazy. It's less than 2-1 on some books. Bro, this guy Malott, he looks good on pads. He's not. I have not seen him throw, other than that punch that he caught on that guy Renfro, who I know some guys that train with Renfro too, but chin has looked a little iffy. Other than that, I have not seen him be able to throw a dangerous punch in an MMA fight. And Mickey Gall's got a rock head. I've heard this. This is from primary sources.
Made it to a decision versus Mike Perry. This dude's not knocking him out.
Yeah.
Come on.
I mean, I really don't see that. But like the ITD is for Malott is like +1. Like, dude, I don't think he's submitting Mickey Gall. I don't really know about his cardio, right? It's very untested. So I mean, I'm backing. I was like on the fence because I was so disappointed what Mickey did last time. But the fact that he went down to Sanford, he got away from his comfort zone up in New Jersey, got away from all that. Obviously he got 3 rounds of experience against a really legit welterweight in Alex Morono, who's got a ton of experience. There's something about Alex Morono. He puts a spell on guys, man. He makes them fight suboptimally. Look at his whole fight history. Every guy he's fought, you don't understand how he wins because the other guy fights, in the worst way possible. I don't think that's going to happen here. Malott does not control the fight very well. The pace of the fight, he doesn't really direct it where he wants. He backs up. He's backing up against Hakeem Dawodu, all right? A guy who's much smaller than him, much smaller than Mickey Gall. This guy doesn't really have rangefinders. He's gonna throw some leather in there. He's not scared to engage, right? I'm not calling this guy like a bitch or a pussy. Like, that's not what I'm saying. But there's no way that the skill gap here is at the point where it is here. Mickey Gall has much more experience than Malott. Yes, Malott has been training he's been in the training room with a lot of these guys, getting them ready. But we saw Slava Borsch, right? Slava Borsch is working with these boys at Alpha Male.
Can't wrestle one fucking
He can't wrestle one lick. And this guy's been training at Alpha Male for a long time, and Malott's been like a coach over there. I don't know what's going on at Alpha Male, but I think all they really do is spar. I think that's the issue there. You'll see these videos, you see fucking Song Yadong throwing, spinning head kicks and, guys running away from him in that open style gym. So, I'm going to back Mickey Gall here. I think all the prices, every line in here, I don't understand it. The overs, the doesn't go the distance, the doesn't go the distance is minus 300 on here. That's crazy. Okay, guys, like
I really don't
that
get
is
it.
doesn't make any sense. So I'm gonna back Mickey Gall here. How wrong could I be against this guy Malott? He's Canadian. Like this dude, I don't think he's like he gave up on his MMA dreams kind of early, and then they pushed him into UFC. I don't think he's gonna get a win over Mickey Gall. If he does, if he finishes him, I'm gonna be eating a lot of crow, but I don't mind it. Let's back my boy from the Northeast down in the Southeast. Hometown fight for him. His adopted home state, I guess, for his camp. So I'll take Mickey. I think he sticks him with the jab. I think he starts finding some strikes as the fight goes later on. Got to make sure that Malott doesn't start too hot. But I think this will be competitive. But I think Mickey's gonna pull ahead, stay on top of him, land some ground and pound, win a decision, or maybe get a late finish.
So like what you said just there is like, if I'm wrong, I mean I'm wrong. It'll look bad, obviously, in retrospect. But like seriously, does anybody know a legitimate MMA bettor out there that is backing Mike Malott? Like,
Canadians say that Malott is like the real deal Holyfield, and they say they're like, oh man, this guy was so legit. But bro, there's no prospects in Canada. So any prospect from Canada,
except Jasmine Jazz Davidius. I agree.
any
But
prospect that comes out of Canada, they're like, yo, this guy's great. Nobody wants to fight him because there are no other prospects to fight them.
well, still,
Go
again,
ahead.
I doubt
Go ahead.
many profitable bettors out there are betting Malott as a favorite. I mean, right off the bat, this dude less than 3 minutes of fight time in 6.5 years. I mean, he only fought 3 times. All of them were quick round 1 finishes. He looked, okay, good in the fights, but still, how could you be betting a guy with less than 3 minutes in a cage in 6.5 years? I mean, especially as the favorite, right? I mean, it really that based on that alone, it makes no sense. Then you have coupled in the fact that this guy's a former welterweight. He's not really a natural welterweight.
Former
Did I
featherweight.
just say? Yeah, what did I just
Yeah,
say?
former
I don't
featherweight.
even.
You said me.
Um,
No,
not a natural welterweight, right? Very little. We have no idea how good this guy is. I mean, the spectrum on how good this guy could be anywhere from, you know, terrible like Slava Borshev, he could be a legitimate prospect. But as of right now, we have no fucking clue. There is no fucking way that you can judge this guy based on his 3 minutes of fights time in the past 6.5 years. So his best area, Malott, seems to be grappling, which is where Mickey Gall is at his most comfortable. And I mean, even if we give Malott the benefit of the doubt and say that he's going to have a good fight, he's going to win. I think it's going to be like a kind of a back and forth grappling type of fight where maybe he gets on top and they trade top positions a few times, and we have some competitive striking exchanges. I mean, I really do agree with Ozzy with the goes to distance at over 2-1 makes no sense. Mickey Gall's money line makes no sense. The Malott knockout prop is batshit insane. I don't understand it, many of these prop prices at all.
Lott's
So
30, bro.
Mickey Gall is not.
Lott's old. Is it? He's older than
Mickey
Mickey
Gall.
Gall, or they're like the same age.
That's crazy. Mickey Gall is not tapping to a fucking guillotine with no hooks in either. Like I like to say here, I'm not tapping to that. Like just like a Kirziev last week. Remember, I told
Yeah,
you
you
that
gotta be.
that I could make it longer.
Yeah,
I'm making it long. I'm not tapping to a no hook in guillotine.
no guard. Yeah, I mean that kid, if he would have just rolled to his back, like he didn't even roll to his back to try to get out. But also like this dude Malott, you don't have flow grappling. I could send you this grappling match that he had. I watched it. Dude, he didn't look that good in that. I'll send you it so you can watch it. He didn't look that good. That's why I bet that the Israel kid, he didn't look very good in that match, and he lost it. I think Mickey Gall is a better grappler than him. I
Right.
really
Me
do.
too.
I really do.
That's all we gotta say. Well, Mickey Gall money line for real dollars. That's enough about that one. And let's move on. We got next fight, banger in the women's bantamweight division. Probably one of our favorite woman fighters on the podcast here. We got Raquel Pennington taking on Aspen Ladd. Raquel minus 170, Ladd plus 145. Obviously, Raquel is the one we're a fan of. Nobody likes Aspen Ladd except for our boy Marcus in the Discord. So, literally the only Aspen Ladd fan I've ever met in my life. And Raquel's just a stud. No other way around it is that she's a stud. She's always undervalued. Minus 135 versus Kianzad was the same price against Macy Chiasson. I just think the market consistently underrates Raquel, and she looked good in that. Macy fight, was jabbing to the body, was landing some nice punches, ended up snatching that nice guillotine. And, I just think that Raquel, well, I know that Raquel is the better striker. No one in the world will dispute that Raquel is the better striker, better boxer, hits harder. She's much more experienced. And I think she's perfectly capable of a defensive grappler enough to avoid these, sloppy Aspen Ladd takedowns. Ladd had, extremely head scratching performance against Norma Dumont. Just barely even shot takedowns in that fight. Just looked completely shook from the moment the fight started. And remember that controversy, Ozzy, after that fight? People were like, "Oh, her coach is being too hard on her." Like, she was fighting like dog shit, and the coach was telling her she was fighting like dog shit. And then people were like, "Oh man," they were just
Because
some
she's a
bullshit
woman.
excuse
It's because
for
she's a
Ladd.
woman. It's because you can't be
Yeah, and
harsh
also,
on a woman.
yeah,
You
mid
can't
fight,
tell them
right
what
in
it
the middle
is.
of
You
a
can't
fist
tell them
fight.
what it is. Yeah,
Right.
come on.
And also, let's also say that Aspen Ladd is obese, right? She can't make 135. She had that fight against Chiasson's canceled because she can't make the weight. She couldn't make the weight multiple times before. I thought it was a done deal that this woman is going to 145. She fought one time at 145, and now she's back trying to make the weight cut. Like, there's Aspen Ladd, good chance that she doesn't even make weight. I'm saying right now, minus 150 Aspen Ladd not to make weight. You can book your action in my DMs. And that's all I gotta say is Raquel's gonna clown this girl in the feet. All she's got to do is avoid those sloppy takedowns. Even if she gets initially taken down, Raquel is not gonna wilt like fucking Tanya Evinger did, or Yana Kunitskaya, or whoever the women did that Ladd finished. I mean, Raquel's gonna beat that ass. I think minus 170 is still value. Anything under 2-1 should be value on Pennington. And I think this opened like minus 135 for Pennington. So man, just give me Raquel, let Raquel box her ears off, and send Aspen back to Invicta.
Yeah. Has Raquel ever had issues with her weight? Has she ever missed weight? No, right? She's never had an issue with the weight with the
I
scale,
feel like
right?
maybe the
Maybe
Jermaine
once.
fight.
Maybe
Yeah,
once.
Jermaine, she did
Mm,
138.
mm. Yeah. So I mean, these girls at 135, like I always am a little. Don't get me wrong. I love Raquel and Raquel. The Macy. That's the thing that I was thinking. The Macy fight was at 145 because she, I think, filled
Hmm.
in or something shit happened. So that's what I was thinking. Because I remember she weighed in at 145, but it was a whatever. It was scheduled there. So either way, I'm waiting until, even though I like the price on Raquel, even right now, I'm waiting because I feel like both of these girls could potentially have an issue on the scale, potentially, just because both of them fought 145 last time. So I don't want to get caught with my pants down. Um, um, so yeah, so let's just talk about the fight here. Raquel 4-1 in her last few fights, right? Outside of the times where she fought, Jermaine and Amanda, two former champions. I mean, the only girls she's lost to are former champions, literally across everything, right? Andrade, Holly Holm, Nunes, Durandamy, Holly Holm again, like the only girls. And this fight is greatly favored to go late, to go the distance. And Raquel, she showed you in that Pandy Kianzad fight that she comes on. She's steady. I really like fighters that they never get too high, they never get too low. They always give you a nice baseline, and then they can bump it up a little bit, as needed. And Raquel definitely is a very feel based fighter. I feel like she knows, when she might be slightly behind, when she might be slightly ahead, when good opportunities are coming for her. And she's got great cardio, right? She's not gonna gas like Sarge did in that third round, right? She's not, like you said, gonna give up. And those are two of Aspen Ladd's the only two decision wins she's ever had are against Sajara Eubanks, who should probably be at 125, is a known domestic abuser. So obviously, karma goes against her in any judging based fights, and has terrible conditioning, right? And those are two of her only two decision wins, right? So, I love Raquel here. I'm really thinking, like you said, I want to back her here. I kind of want to wait until the scales, but I feel like this line could move up and settle at -200 because if you look at the lines, man, like I said, Aspen Ladd doesn't win decisions, but her inside the distance line is +600, right? So I have a really hard time seeing her beat Raquel 2 out of 3 rounds. Obviously, it would have to be with takedowns, holding Raquel down in like half guard because, I think if Raquel's in like full guard, like she's just gonna push, 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 come stand up, and then, fight from the clinch. So I'm backing Raquel here. I think I'm gonna have to lay this -170, yeah, -170. I think is as good as it's gonna get. I'd be surprised if significant Aspen Ladd action came in. She's just not good on the feet. She's not. She has no intent on any of her strikes. Right? Like I say it all the time with these women. Sometimes, like you could give them knives, right, instead of their fists, and she won't hurt anybody. Like if you gave her a 5-inch long knife, Norma Dumont would be fine. She would not have died in that fight. Um, so as stupid as that is to say, just to tell you that this bitch is not dangerous. On the
It's
feet.
accurate. It's accurate.
This is what my coach used to say because like people used to spar and they just be hitting like sissies, and the dude's like, bro, I could give you a fucking knife and you wouldn't even hurt him with your jab. Like, what are you doing? So I always like that little analogy. But yeah, like give me Raquel here, -170. I think is good. Decision line is -105. Aspen Ladd seems tough, but Raquel brings a different intensity there. In that in these fights, right? If you have one look at her, you could tell she's built different, right? If you know what I mean. So, I don't think that she can't not finish this fight. So I probably just stick to the money line.
Yeah, good point about the lad inside the distance there. I mean, I don't see her getting multiple takedowns and winning multiple rounds with that. If she's getting multiple takedowns, I think she probably will try to translate it into a finish. So her knockout and sub props inside the distance are probably the better way to play her. But don't forget that Chiasson got steamed in the last like 36, 48 hours in that fight against Raquel. So we might get a better price on Raquel. But that's going to take us next fight, heavyweight division. We got Jairzinho Rozenstruik taking on Martian Tybura. Tybura is the dog in this one somehow. Rozenstruik -150, Tybura +130. Your turn to start this one off. What is this? Is this the only no, second heavyweight fight on the card? What are your thoughts on this one?
Love this fight. I actually think good matchmaking. Two fighters that I feel, Tybura, very not I'm not saying he's a strange fighter for heavyweight, but he's a different kind of heavyweight. Like this guy's pretty well rounded, right? He's got some stand up skills, but he's like not to say he's a plotter, but he'll come forward, he'll like throw head kicks. He's very diverse with his shot selection. He's just a very very different than a lot of these guys. And I backed them against Volkov, and I thought that was a very close decision. Obviously, Volkov pulled it out there late, but I mean, Tybura was a huge dog there, and he's been consistently undervalued. Like you could literally have gotten him at like a pick 'em price or plus money in like other than the Volkov fight. His last 5 wins: Walt Harris, Greg Hardy, Ben Rothwell, Maxine Grisham, Sergey Spivak. All of those fights, man, he was plus money or pick him, and I bet him every single time. And some of those fights,
Undervalued, man. Undervalued every time.
some like the Grisham fight was the craziest one. He was fighting a guy who used to fight at light heavyweight, and he was like -110. And I'm telling guys in there like, no, this dude Grisham, M1, blah blah. It's like, bro, Tybura's 252 pounds. This other guy used to fight at light heavy. No way. But either way, so he's very diverse. But his issue is he's been stunned multiple times, right? Walt Harris had him rocked, right? He obviously got knocked out a few times in these losses of his, but he's got a very well-rounded skill set. Jorginho, we know him, right? This guy's got bombs in his hands, but he does not, I feel, set up these strikes very well. He's very often on another guy's beat, on another guy's song, on another guy's schedule, right? When he lands that shot, you don't really see it coming. It comes out of nowhere, right? That Augusto Sakai one, he was kind of like backing up a little bit, during the whole fight. The Curtis Blades fight, he didn't really get anything going all that much. And then the Cyril Gahn fight, obviously he didn't either, and even the Junior Dos Santos fight. So I mean, I just feel Tybura is such a multifaceted heavyweight and can give Jairzinho so many different looks that I just think that it's going to be very difficult for him to get into the groove that he wants to be in. But my issue with Tybura is that the striking style that he does present and go forward is very open to getting hit. That's why he's been knocked out multiple times, because he has that different style of heavyweight. And sometimes if you're coming forward and you're very volume based and volume centric, if the other guy has, huge power, it's going to be an issue for you. And Jairzinho does have the big power. So I do understand why people want to back Jairzinho here. Obviously he's a very renowned kickboxer. He's found a KO shot multiple times, and we've seen Tybura be susceptible to that. But I've committed to riding Tybura until the wheels absolutely fall off, and I'm gonna keep doing it here, especially at this plus price. I do think if Tybura takes him down, this is like, no offense to Curtis Blades, but like Curtis Blades is, I don't know what he was doing in that fight, because he could have pushed to like come on, man, you could push the circle around him. Tybura, once he does get on top, I do think he has a level above jiu-jitsu wise than a lot of these heavyweights have, and I think that he's gonna win this fight here against Jairzinho. He could get sparked, at any point, obviously, but I do think that he's very cognizant of this now. He's getting more and more experience, right? He's got like double the fights of Jorginho, and he's got some power as well. So I'm hoping that he pushes Jorginho back, gets a double leg, takes him down, and finishes him. But if not, I don't think that Jorginho is going to be coming forward and producing, his offense, right? I think it's gonna be more of a counter. So I think either way, Tybura is gonna be winning the fight until he's not. So at plus money, I'll back him and hope that he could get this one done.
Yeah, I mean, Ozzy nailed this shit on all fronts. I'll try not to spend too much time on it because I agree with virtually everything the man just said. But Tabura is the easy spot here. His past 9 fights, right? Every fight that he's won, he's landed a takedown. Every fight that he's lost, he hasn't landed a takedown. He's no dummy. He knows that wrestling is the key to his victory. The statistics, which mean say that he shot 16 takedowns versus Alexander Volkov. I don't believe that number, but obviously the guy knows where his specialty is. He's finishing guys on top. He finished Greg Hardy, Walt Harris on top. The wrestling has led to his 5-fight win streak, and he's fighting a dangerous kickboxer, and he's gonna know he needs to get the fight to the floor. And with the striking, obviously Rozenstruik is the better striker, has more power, but Tybura is no slouch on the feet either. He's going to be competing while the fight's on the feet, and the margin of the fight is probably like 70-30 for Rozenstruik when it's striking, right? But when it's grappling, it is 110% in favor of Tybura. There's no possible way that Rozenstruik can have any success in the grappling in this fight. While Tybura can still probably give, Rozenstruik some issues. Rozenstruik's a slow starter. He's a counter puncher. He's typically looking for that one punch knockout type of shot. And if you just get in his face and throw a bunch of strikes, I mean, you can give him some trouble. So Tybura's the spot here. Not much more needs to be said. You got to be backing him here. One takedown probably can either translate a finish or just change the entire course of the fight. And Tybura is easily the side here at plus 135. I'll take him for a unit minimum on that for sure. And then that's going to take us next fight. Last fight in the prelims. We got Ian Garry taking on Garry-Weeks. Ian Garry, massive favorite, minus 365. Garry-Weeks, plus 290. Another fight where I don't think I'll try not to spend too much time on, but Garry, young prospect, very unproven. I think the guy has a lot of weaknesses. His boxing defense is no good. He pulls his head back in a straight line. Very hittable. We've seen him hurt. We've seen him rocked. He's not very experienced late in fights. Most of his pro career has come in the past 2 or 3 years. So this guy is just nowhere near good enough to be minus 300, 400 against UFC level competition. And Weeks might be fringe UFC level, but I mean, the guy impressed me in his short notice debut against Barberena. I mean, Barberena's got 20 fights in the UFC. Weeks fought him on 1 or 2 weeks notice. He had 3 competitive rounds on like a week's notice. So, I mean, the guy completely overperformed in that fight, in my opinion. And he's got a deep amateur background, got like 17 amateur MMA fights. He's been in the MMA game for a long time. I think he might have wrestled a little bit in high school too. So I just think that he's going to give Garry problems everywhere, especially in the striking. He has good cardio, solid striking. He's not a bad defensive grappler. I would probably say that Gary's biggest advantage here is the grappling, but Gary's wrestling is nothing special either. So I don't know. I don't see Garry being capable of covering minus 365. He was the same price versus Jordan Williams, and Jordan Williams gave him a lot of trouble early on. Jordan Williams was frankly busting him up in the first round of that fight before getting finished. So, give me Weeks. Don't go crazy on the line because, I do probably ultimately see him losing. He'll probably win a round. He'll probably start well, but then eventually lose. But, mine plus 290, that's an easy bet for me. Let's hope the dogs keep barking, and I'll pass this one over to Ozzy.
Yeah, I like Weeks coming into his UFC debut. Obviously, he took that in on short notice, and I feel if he had a full camp, he would have beat Barberena. I thought he showed himself really well there. I thought his distance management was all right. I thought his shot selection was very good. But ultimately, he did end up tiring out, and Barberena did what he does and ended up overwhelming him. I do agree that this fight is close than these odds indicate. I mean, Jordan Williams is not a good fighter. And Ian Garry, the thing is he's billed as a master striker, but I mean this guy gets touched a lot on the feet. He's I'm not saying he's not I'm trying to find the right word for his movement. Like he's a little bit not that it's unconventional, but like he likes doing the big movements to like slip away and move away from punches. When I mean all the guys got to do is just keep your fucking hands up, and you won't get hit with some of these punches that you're getting hit with when you're like exiting out or like finishing a combination, right? But what it does do is it does present some opportunities for him to find a KO shot like he did against Williams. But Williams down at 170, diabetic, was it probably should have been cutting that weight anyway, right? Saw Mickey Gall fucking rock his shit, right? I was on him there and on Mickey Gall, that is. Right at 170, you saw this dude, Ian Garry rock his shit as well. And I just think that Darian Weeks, I think he's got a better chin, right? I think he's much more like this dude. I'm just playing it back again. Like this guy was dead on that punch that Garry hit him with. And I think that Darian Weeks has better durability. I think Jordan Williams was a little compromised there. And I feel that Weeks actually has like a better like process overall. Like he kind of knows what he's trying to do a bit more than the guy. Like Jordan Williams is just like a garbage man. Like he's just out there to put out volume, hope to get you tired, and then hopefully win the fight. But he's super sloppy, and that's why he got hit with that bomb against Garry. I think that Weeks he's a little bit more reserved. I think that with that one UFC fight under his belt, where I don't think that he had gone the distance before that. I think he knows what it's like to be in a contentious fight. And Garry, he switched that camp, right? He down to Sanford, but I actually thought he looked better in that Cage Warriors fight against Jack Grant than he did against Jordan Williams. So I actually think this is going to be a much closer fight than the odds definitely indicate. I think that Weeks can very much hold his own on the feet. I actually think the better path for success for Garry would be to try to take him down, which I do think is going to happen. So I'm curious to see uh, if the line, goes up. If I'm gonna make plus 330 or 340 right around there, my buy point on taking like a little stab on Darian Weeks. Here the over 1.5 is pretty juiced, almost 2 to 1 in some places, right? But if that comes in a little bit with some of the hype, maybe some of these hype videos, maybe the stare down where they see that Ian Gary's much taller than Weeks, maybe we could get a little bit better price on the over, because Garry, he's not a big volume based guy. He's like power shots, keep you in space and throw punches, throw blitzes there. And a lot of his fights have actually, or a number of his fights have gone into the second round. And I don't think he actually has like the craziest power in the world, right? A lot of his finishes are like, finishing up, from stunning the guy. So I'll look at this over potential spot on Weeks. I would not parlay Ian Garry. I think it is going to be competitive. Weeks is a heralded prospect. He's got a lot of amateur experience. So, I'll be keeping my eye on it. But I do think that Ian Garry probably uses some of his grappling skills to fight down and ends up winning it.
And that's going to take us to the main card, 5-fight main card. Starting things off, lightweight division, we got Vince from Hell Pichel -123, Mark Madsen +103. Vince definitely got one of the best nicknames in MMA, so you could start this main card off. What are you thinking about this lightweight matchup?
Nice. I like that they got promoted to the main card. I don't know who was the original fight that they had here. They switched around, but Pichel, man, this guy has had a really successful UFC career under the radar, right? Who would have thought that Vince Pichel would have outlasted Ally Akina, right? In terms of like longevity of career. Obviously, Al's had a great career of his own, but Pichel, being having so many wins in the UFC, and now getting rewarded with a main card spot against an undefeated guy and Marco Madsen. I'll tell you right off the bat, I went into this fight, really feeling like, hey, Pichel's the side. I backed him against Austin Herbert. I thought that was a pretty good fight overall for both guys. I think they both showed their skills, there pretty well. And I did not really like what I saw in any way in Marco Madsen's fight against Clay Guida. The only thing that I like that Marco Madsen does is he throws what I would call sticky punches, where this guy doesn't have a good jab, right? It's not accurate at all, right? He's not a boxer. But what he does do is he'll throw the jab and the shit will miss. But what he does, he turns it right into a collar tie. And he goes into the clinch and he starts throwing knees and uppercuts and getting to probably his Greco and all that. But I think there's potential for this to be first L time for Mark Madsen because of just like the way that he fights, right? He's not really good at top control, right? I haven't really seen his ground and pound other than that 1 minute of hell he released on that dude Danilo. But Danilo's an absolute bum, so I'm not gonna give him much credit for that fight at all. And that was like in Copenhagen too, like that was like a hometown fight, so you always get a little bump there. But the other fights, like he wasn't really able to control Austin Hubbard. Austin Hubbard fucking broke his jaw in the last round with like a flying knee. And then he didn't even go for takedowns against Clay Guida. And he just looks so uncomfortable in the pocket against Clay Guida that it really put me off of him, right? Like his just how he goes into the pocket, he walks in, his lead foot, like it's angled incorrectly. He turns away from the pocket often. He'll turn away from punches when you're like, swinging at him, and he's very inaccurate himself. But I watched the Vince Pichel fight again, the Hubbard fight, and it was a lot very close. We were head to head on that one, and I was talking shit to you like after and in the preceding months. But honestly, that was a super close fight. And Pichel, to me, in that third round, looked worse than I remembered. Like I thought he slowed down himself. I thought his cardio didn't look as good as I recall. And he was just very sloppy with some of his strikes. And if Hubbard had any power at all, I think he could have potentially hurt Vince. I think that Vince, he's a slow starter as well. So I think this is gonna be a competitive fight, and I think that's why I agree with the action right now coming in on Matson because Vince is a little bit not a little nonchalant in there at times in the transitions, and that's where I actually think Mark Matson from that wrestling background is strongest. The transitions, like going from striking to grappling, going from grappling to striking. Where if he gets his hands on you anytime from there, any quick transitions from there, he's good. Or he's competent. In space, he struggles. And so I think this is gonna be a close fight. My favorite bet on this fight is the goes the distance because I just don't really see either of these guys really finishing each other. Mark Madsen throws big winding, haymakers, but Vince Pichel's he's pretty good on his feet. He moves very well. He can switch stances. This is a bigger cage, right? This is not in the UFC Apex like their last two fights are. So I think Pichel has more room to navigate and move around here. But I don't want to pay juice on him. If this maybe gets to pick him or plus money, I could be persuaded to go on the Pichel side just because I think he's got another gear to go into. And I just think that he's much more of a fighter than Mark Manson is. But, I don't really want to lay any juice on Pichel. I think the goes the distance is the right side here because I think both guys will start off slow. I think Madsen eventually looks for takedowns here, and Pichel, man, he gave up some ugly takedowns to Hubbard. So I'll go. I think I'm gonna side. I don't know. I can't pick a side on this one. I think the value is plus money on Madsen. I think it's that close of a fight, but goes the distance. My favorite bet of that of this fight.
Yeah, I guess I'm a little more confident in Pichel than Ozzy is, and I really like that line you said that he's just more of a fighter, and I mean, I definitely think that's true. I mean, Madsen, former Greco-Roman wrestler, and for those of you guys who don't know, Greco-Roman is upper body takedowns. You're not allowed to shoot double leg, single leg takedowns, so his takedowns really haven't transitioned too well to MMA because he goes for those upper body locks and stuff like that. But I mean, there's a non-zero chance that Austin Hubbard might be better at shooting takedowns beneath the waist than Madsen is because that's just not what Madsen is comfortable with. That's not his base. So, sure, Hubbard was able to get Pichel down a few times, but uh, I think that that's not going to be really replicable. You saw Pichel defend really well, get back up from those takedowns. I really think people are looking at Pichel's fights and being like, "Oh, he got taken down by Gillespie. He got taken down by Roosevelt Roberts, Jim Miller, Austin Hubbard. Oh, he gets taken down by everybody. Madsen's a wrestler. Let's bet Madsen." I really think that's what people are doing because I mean, the striking in this fight, I don't think is going to be very close. I think Pichel is the much better striker, and in the Madsen fight against Clay Guida, he had some trouble with the boxing of Clay Guida. Definitely not comfortable in the pocket, like Ozzy was saying. And then he also was getting his legs chewed up with leg kicks. And Vince Pichel throws a lot of leg kicks. In the Austin Hubbard fight, he threw something like landed 30 leg kicks, and I mean he just consistently attacks those leg kicks, and that's a reliable weapon. So Pichel's leg kicks, his boxing is going to be a big advantage. I think his defensive grappling is good enough to avoid getting taken down, and even if he does get taken down, Madsen not much of a top pressure, top control type of guy. He's a Greco-Roman wrestler. You don't keep people down on the ground for long, and I don't think his jiu-jitsu has really come along a great way since transitioning to MMA. So even if he gets a takedown on Pichel briefly, I don't see him holding him down for more than 30 or 60 seconds. And then Pichel's going to get right back to work, chopping those legs and boxing him up. And I think that Pichel, especially in round three, he's going to have a big advantage here, and Pichel's only got to win one of those first two rounds. I think round three should be pretty heavily in favor of Pichel, and I'm a little more confident in backing him here. This line is already confusing me. I mean, the action on Madsen is already a bit questionable to me. So maybe we should wait and just try to get in later. But I also agree with the Aussies take on the goes the distance. Currently, minus 156 on FanDuel, which means the fight ends by finish like 39% of the times. How the hell is this fight going to finish 39% of the times? I mean, Madsen's finishing upside seems very little to me. Pichel, I guess, has a better chance of getting a knockout, but even him, I don't see it being more than 20%. I think a finish in this fight is like in the more of the 25 to 30% range instead of the 35 to 40% range. So goes the distance. Pichel, maybe some Pichel round three props as well. What is that? Plus 1400 on Pichel round three. Look out for that one. And that's going to take us to the next fight, women's strawweight division. We got Mackenzie Dern taking on Tecia Torres. Mackenzie Dern currently minus 113, Torres minus 107. I know it's my turn to start this one off, but I'm going to pass it back to you, Ozzy. I know you're more excited about this fight. So if you're cool to start things off here, what are you thinking about this one?
All right, so yeah, so Dern versus Tisha. Love this fight. Awesome fight in the women's 115 division. Obviously, you got Dern coming off a main event loss. Tisha, on the other hand, prelim fighter. Obviously, right? She's been chopping through these bitches, right? These low level girls like Sam Hughes, Angela Hill. No offense, bro. And what's the last other girl's name? I don't even remember. It doesn't. Brianna Van
Van
Buren. Yeah,
Buren?
Van Buren. So, I mean, Tisha, they've built her up really nicely, right? There was a point where they actually thought Tisha was like good, right? They were like giving her these high profile fights, right? Marina, Weili Zhang, all those fights. Then they figured out they're like, nope, this girl's not it. So they had to give her a little step down. But what you do in these matches, you build these up, and then when you Mackenzie Dern coming off a main event loss, then you throw this kind of girl who's been built up, throw her to her so she could tap her out and then get right back up to to doing her thing. And that's does not happen here. I have very little doubt that when this fight hits the ground, it's an instant submission for Mackenzie Dern. Okay. I've learned in all my years that, these Taekwondo karate people, they just there's something with them, man. They don't take well to the jiu-jitsu. And watch the Angela Hill fight, okay? If Angela Hill is taking you down, you got serious issues, like big, big, big time issues. Like Angela Hill's been training, MMA for like 10 years, and like she barely is a purple belt. Like I think she got her purple belt after, taking down Tisha Torres a bunch of times, which is really, really sad to say. And, Mackenzie, man, people want to clown on her. They want to talk, talk down. But when the fights hit the ground, this girl cuts through people like butter. Okay. You saw that fight against Nina? Yeah, like that was, I was like grinning ear to ear because it was just such a smooth destruction of Nina. And I know people will knock Mackenzie's takedowns, right? They're like, no, she doesn't have good takedowns, 6% takedown percentage, all this stuff. All true. Those are facts, right? Those are statistics, right? She took Marina down though a few times, right? And the only reason I feel she didn't submit Marina is because she got a little too fancy in one of those times where she was like in like that top turtle position where she tried to get like that crucifix, like trapping the arm, taking the back, going for a rear naked choke and all that, trying to get her in that shit that she got Montana De La Rosa with. If she would have just been calm, took her back, she would have finished her. And then, in the mount, obviously, I think she just didn't have enough time there. But Tisha she can't defend on the ground. And the way that you can like the difference in taking down a girl like Marina and a girl like Tisha is just so vast. Like I see people saying, "Oh, Tisha, she's so ripped, she's so strong, she's gonna be able to defend the takedowns." You're not, dude. No, because for anyone that's grappled, that like two people could be the same weight. One of them being like 5'4" and one of them being 5'10", 5'9". Just there's a difference in the leverage that you could produce, especially on the ground, and the angles that you could start to get on a girl like Tisha, such a tiny little chick like her, are just immense. Like that's why you're able to just run circles around them. And you see that with Angela Hill. She's like taking her back, running around her back, pulling her down. Tisha can't even break her grip against the fence when she's behind her. Okay, you don't think Mackenzie Dern, once she locks her hands around Tisha in any way, around any limb, isn't not going to be able to drag her down to the mat? Like, are you kidding me? Tisha's never fought any grapplers, right? She fought Brianna Van Buren, who's even tinier than her, right? She's like 4'11", and went to go make a baby, but she's not on the level in any capacity as Mackenzie Dern is. And I mean, I like girls or fighters that are coming off that 5-round fight. Mackenzie got very valuable cage time there. She knows what it's like to be in a contentious fight. Like that fight was kind of close over. Like obviously Mackenzie didn't win, and I think Marina beat her 4-1. But at any point of that fight, you thought and you felt that Mackenzie could have won because you knew that as soon as it hits the ground, this is big, big, big danger. And Tisha, I think, is probably even worse than Marina on the ground. Tisha's never dealt with anyone on the mat. At least, Marina, right? She had to fight against Amanda Hebas on the ground. She had to fight against what's her name? What's the other girl's name that she was Carla Esparza. How can I forget Carla? Had to fight against Carla Esparza on the mat. Jessica Aguilar, Randa Marcos, Michelle. All these, was it Michelle? Yeah, the Michelle Waterson fight was before. All these fights where she, Cynthia Calvillo, all these fights where she knew a girl was able to take her down and mount her and do all this stuff, and she still couldn't stop for the most part Mackenzie from doing it, even with how shitty Mackenzie's takedowns are and this and how shitty her stand up is. This is not it, guys. I'm telling you. Tisha throws kicks when she's close. She throws spinning kicks. All her punches or her strikes are what are they? They're blitzing attacks. She's running forward. Throwing these punches that do no damage, right? They don't do any damage. So, hopefully her best chance is obviously winning a decision, right? She's 11-5 in decisions, so not even a great record in decisions, but that's her path to victory here. And Mackenzie is, plus 250 for the submission. Like you bet that every single time with Mackenzie Dern, and you will end up positive. I think that was the same price against Marina, plus 250. It was the same price when I dropped a nuke on the submission prop against Nina Nunes, and everybody was on the Nunes side, and I was like, no, 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 no. Like this is gonna be no contest once it hits. Mackenzie Dern is one of the best grapplers, female, that's ever walked the face of the planet, and you're getting a plus 250 sub prop in a fight against Tisha Torres, she's never shown you any jiu-jitsu. The only jiu-jitsu she's ever shown you is when she's kicking Angela Hill from on bottom, and Angela Hill's like, "What are you doing?" Knee on belly, bottom mount. Tisha Torres is throwing punches from bottom out. It's ridiculous. Mackenzie was 2-1 favorite over Marina, and now you get her pick 'em against Tisha Torres. Dude, this is best bet of the night for me. Could be a homer. Jiu-jitsu in the women's division is just so strong. It's just too strong. Like you could be hurting. Mackenzie could be in the 14th minute of this fight, and she could trip over, grab Tisha's leg, and rip it off, and is done. So you could bring up the Hannah Cyphers fight, but Mackenzie Dern, if anyone's getting better, is Mackenzie Dern. It is not Tisha Torres. She's gonna win this fight. I'm on it big. We're doing this. There's a reason this line's flipped. It's Mackenzie Dern time by submission. Take some inside the distance. Take some under. She's gonna finish Tisha.
I agree with virtually everything except I don't really think Dern is getting better, unfortunately. But I don't think she needs to necessarily get better. I think that the Dern that we've seen several fights ago would still, beat Torres. I mean, what you said with the best point is that Torres needs 10 to 15 minutes to go right for her. She needs to win 2 out of 3 rounds with her striking, to stuff takedowns, to avoid being on bottom, to avoid being tangled up in a guard pull or any type of leg lock entanglement. She needs 10 to 15 minutes of time to go right for her to win this fight. While Dern needs one takedown, one guard pull, one slip, one caught kick, and Ozzy sent some clips of that Hill fight, which I honestly didn't remember. I was just traumatized from Angela Hill losing so badly. But yeah, I mean, like. Torres falls over throwing a kick, and Angela Hill instantly mounts her. Or one time, she's throwing a kick, and Angela Hill gets to the body lock, gets a brief takedown. I mean, like you said, I mean, all you had to see was her getting taken down and her getting mounted by Angela Hill for me to side with Dern in this fight, honestly. I mean, I know Torres is the better striker. She might be the better athlete, better footwork and whatnot, but it doesn't really matter because all Dern needs is one opportunistic moment to get on top and to translate a finish. I'm not quite as confident that she's going to instantly tap her, but I think that obviously she can attack submissions from all angles, rear naked chokes, arm bars, leg lock, knee bars. She can do it all from the jiu-jitsu standpoint. So I think that a takedown will probably be the fight. But didn't she go from mostly ground and pound versus Marina in round 2? I feel like she didn't. I mean, you kind of were talking about this. She kind of wasted her time throwing strikes there while she should have been looking for that sub. But
I kind of forget the sequencing, but I just remember there was one time when she was like top mount on her, like knees all the way up under the armpits, like Marina's like holding her back or whatever it is. I don't know. All I know is that Tisha's getting submitted on
that's true.
Saturday night because all of her offense just runs right into the lion's den of be a grappler. It's like she's throwing teeps, she's throwing push kicks, she's got short ass arms, so she never throws a jab. She I mean this I really don't see why anybody would want to back Tisha Torres at this price because yeah, is she quick? Yeah, she's faster than Mackenzie, but she needs to get super close to be able to do anything. And as soon as Mackenzie grabs her, dude, she's gonna take her down. I just don't see. And if she doesn't take her down, she'll pull her on top of her and go for a leg lock. Like you think that the men, like anyone that's watched ADCC Abu Dhabi trials this past weekend, you think that the men's people watch those grappling matches with the men and they're like, whoa, holy shit! Like these guys are the gulf of a good women's grappler to like a average one or a great to an average is so big. It's just incredible. Like I can't even describe it to you. Like the difference between a blue belt in jiu-jitsu on the men's side and a black belt is becoming very shorter and shorter. But between women blue belt and women black belt, it's becoming bigger and bigger because these girls just don't. Tisha does not train jiu-jitsu.
We gotta move on. We gotta move on.
Simple. Sorry, I'm sorry, but Tisha does not do jiu-jitsu.
We got the most interesting fight on the card for me, right? I mean, obviously the two title fights are interesting. We've seen Jan Sterling before.
I just went through my most
I don't
interesting
really
fights. I'm
think
sorry.
Jung, will be that interesting considering he doesn't deserve the title shot, and I think his chances are thin. But this fight is the one I'm most excited for. Obviously, I feel like I think it's the number one fight that people are looking forward to on the card in general. Welterweight division, Khamzat Chimaev, Gilbert Burns. Chimaev, is, minus 550. Burns is like plus 400. I don't have the exact line in front of me. I'll pull it up in a second. But yeah, bet online. Chimaev minus 600 actually. Burns plus 400. So obviously there are still a lot of questions out there about Chimaev. We haven't seen him in prolonged striking exchanges. We don't know how he's going to do with leg kicks. We don't know how his chin is. We don't know how his cardio is late in the fight. But all signs point to this guy being, uh, you know, on his way to being elite, right? I mean, the dude is an insane athlete. Huge for this 170-pound weight class. Obviously, very fast. Looks like a powerful striker, and what we know the most about is that he is a fantastic grappler, a strong wrestler, great top position, nasty ground and pound, can submit you from all angles. So even though Hamzat's UFC competition has been pretty weak, I mean, the skill set that he showed in those fights, I think does, translate extremely well, right? Like, sure, he hasn't beaten enough high level names, but I think people get a little too caught up with the names. Oh, he only beat John Phillips and Rice McKee. Okay, but the skill and the wrestling, the grappling that he showed in those fights is still going to beat the majority of UFC middleweights and welterweights. And like I said, people get too caught up on the names. And I think that Gilbert Burns, though, has got to be the best opponent that Chimaev has fought by a pretty gigantic margin, right? Mearshart and Jing Liang and that Ali Karaskov guy from before the UFC. Maybe they're like C plus fighters, right? Maybe B minus on their best day. But Burns is a solid A minus fighter. I mean, very very good in all areas. No glaring weaknesses. And obviously, this is a huge step up for Chimaev, and Burns is still a 4-1 dog. So I mean, initially, the way I was thinking is that, Chimaev does seem to be the real deal. I don't think that betting against the guy is necessarily the right side of history to be on right now. But the longer like I've thought about this fight, just thinking back on Burns' career, rewatching the Usman fight, right? If Burns can steal round one off Usman, if he can, maybe shake Usman up, drop them with that punch a little bit, had some early round one success, if he can unanimously win round one against Usman, who is the proven best welterweight in the world, are we really sure that he should be a 4-1 dog over Khamzat Chimaev? Now, ultimately, I see Chimaev winning, right? Ultimately, he's the justified favorite. I don't see him losing here, but I think Burns has two windows to win here. The early window, which is the first maybe 60, 90 seconds, where if these guys are striking with one another, the fight is early, the chins aren't tested yet. Burns could clip him, could maybe hit him with some hard leg kicks and, limit Chimaev's movement. He could clip him with a punch just like he did Usman. But the middle part of the fight after the first minute, I think, should be mostly Chimaev, right? I think Chimaev's going to start to grapple. He is the better wrestler. He's the much bigger fighter. His top control looks really good. He can possibly ride Burns out against the fence, get some cage pushing in there like Gunnar Nelson did, maybe get a quick takedown and back take like Damian Maia did on Burns. Um, but then the second window that Burns has is the second half of the fight, where if he's able to survive the first 5 to 7 minute onslaught from Chimaev, how is Chimaev's cardio going to look? We have no idea how it looks. Especially at this welterweight weight class where he's going to have to cut a lot more weight. We have no idea what his cardio is going to look like in the second half of the fight. So Burns can win very early. He can win in the second half of the fight, but in that middle portion of the fight, I think he is going to be going through some rough patches there, getting taken down, grinded against the cage, getting controlled. And I don't know. It's hard to also imagine how Chimaev is going to finally get the fight done. Is he? I don't think he's going to submit Burns, right? That seems like the most unlikely thing to me is Chimaev submitting him. But he might get him out of there with ground and pound. Burns has been a little chinny throughout his career. Usman was able to drop him multiple times and finish him there. So And I could see a lot of outcomes happening on the in this fight. I mean, so many different outcomes. I think the only one I don't even know if I can write off Chimaev's submission, honestly, right? Because if he's nailing him with ground and pound, and then Burns opens up the neck and says, I don't want to eat any more of these punches, he might give up the neck. We've seen crazier things. Rodolfo Vieira got submitted, so it's not out of the question. So, I mean, I'm really, really looking forward to this fight. I want to see Burns test Chimaev. I want to see Chimaev go later in the fight. I want to see some new information about Chimaev. I think it would be kind of boring to see Chimaev just run through Burns and not learn anything new about him. But it also would be immensely impressive, right? So, I don't know. I guess my official gun to my head prediction: Chimaev round 2 knockout. But I just hope Burns makes it interesting. I'm not exactly endorsing the Burns money line, but there's only obviously one money line you could bet in this fight, right? It's the dog, it's Burns. It's just a question of, do you want to take the stab on the 4-1, or do you want to look for some other way to play the fight? So I'm 10 out of 10 excited for this fight. Can't wait for this one. What's your excitement like for the fight, Ozzy? And
Oof.
what are you thinking for your prediction?
Yeah, I was joking. I'm super pumped, obviously to see this fight. Obviously Hamza is just like a total not
Enigma.
mystery or whatever, like yeah, enigma like this. It was unfortunate that he had to take all that time off after the Mershart win, because that was just like, I mean, my jaw was on the floor when he just one punched Mershart. Mershart's talking about how he doesn't remember like half the day after getting hit with that punch. And then I was committed at that point to putting, half my net worth on Chimaev versus Leon Edwards. I just thought he was going to totally destroy him. And then he didn't disappoint in that Jin Liang fight. Now, against Burns though, when they're matching up, the biggest issue, like you said, is Chimaev is saying, in some of these videos that he's like 190, 189, and that's like maybe like 8, 10 days out, which is not that crazy, but this dude is super lean, and 170 is a cut, man. And I've cut weight, and you know, you definitely aren't, you're definitely not built for 15 minutes if you're, excuse me, if you're cutting weight like that, especially with the ferocity that this guy fights with, like the shots that he throws, when you see like some of these fights that he's had, they're vicious strikes. And Burns has shown that chinniness, but at welterweight, I don't know. Like obviously, Usman finished him, which I think is also i- is interesting, because Burns slipped up there in the fact that he just expended too much energy, in that fight, and then was able to be taken out. And that's why a lot of people, I think, are seeing, and doubting the fact that even if Chimaev is maybe a little bit compromised by the weight, even if he doesn't get Burns out of there right away, like, does Burns really have the conditioning, to push Chimaev, to put him on his heels, to take him down, and then produce offense once once he takes him down, or vice versa if he is defending some of his grappling, because he was very content to be on his back against Usman. And if he's going to be on his back and not pushing the pace on Chimaev's going to eat him up. I think if Chimaev can control the pace of this fight, I just think he's going to be able to dominate Gilbert. I think he's going to be able to just start just demoralizing him, and putting big strikes on him, and eventually finishing him. So Gilbert needs to take, the he needs to control the pace of the fight, and that's gonna be super difficult, because this dude Chimaev, obviously, right? He's a locomotive. But if you look at the last opponents that Gilbert's faced, right? Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, Tyron Wood, Damian. These guys, man, they don't got the juice like Chimaev's got the juice, right? To put it bluntly, those guys don't got, their T levels are not the same. Okay, that the testosterone is not the same between those 40-year-olds that Gilbert Burns has been beating up, and Chimaev, this 27-year-old fucking savage. And I don't know if you know the history of like athletes and stuff, but 27, 28, that's when these motherfuckers, this is when they start, crushing guys. And that's really the prime, I feel, in MMA as well. I feel like that's when you really start hitting it, for sure. So, I'm really curious about this fight. I do think on the feet, if Burns can keep some of that high guard, if he can, stay patient, maybe work some of his jab a little bit. But the problem is his range, him at range, hasn't ever been, really great. He's been a kind of guy who looping hooks, blitzing attacks. Yeah, he'll maybe throw a few leg kicks, but I doubt he's gonna want to chop the leg too much here. So I'm very skeptical at that. And I know Chimaev, he has pretty good movement on the feet. He can switch to southpaw. I think that he might approach this fight a little slower than people think, just because I think he respects Gilbert Burns, a bit. I think he knows that this guy's tough and all, and even if he was to go take him down, like I don't think he's gonna be able to like jump on his back or sink in hooks and do what he did to Jing Liang as easily here to Burns. But man, this is gonna be a tough fight for Gilbert Burns. He's gonna have to go to hell and back to do it. I just don't like, what I saw in that Usman fight. Being comfortable being on his back. So, I do think that Chimaev is gonna end up pulling away with this fight. I think this guy's a different level. He's a different kind of beast in this welterweight division. I think it's all about his ability to make this weight and not be compromised, right? You hear about him in the gym and all, and that's a setup potentially, right? Maybe not potentially for him specifically, but you always hear there are guys that in the room, they're the best in the room. And Chimaev has shown he's amazing in the cage as well. But the weight cut matters, man. Him fucking up Sean Strickland when he's 190 pounds and fully hydrated and all that good stuff, it's one thing. But cutting down to, bare bones, and then trying to rehydrate and fighting a world class guy the next day, I'm telling you, it has an effect on people. And I know this from firsthand knowledge of cutting, a decent amount of weight when I fought. So I'm gonna pick Chimaev. I want to see him win. I'm a jiu-jitsu guy, so I love Gilbert Burns. I love to see him. I don't care how Gilbert Burns wins. If he knocks him out or if he armbars him, either way, we're claiming jiu-jitsu. For the win.
What's your
But I think
method
that
for Chimaev? How you think he gets it done?
it's going to probably be some kind of like ground and pound stoppage, big punch, stun him, push him against the fence, get a takedown and then just start,
Yeah,
unloading with some elbows down on the mat. But
I can see it. I can see it.
yeah,
TKO.
that's what I think. I think he's in the TKO.
All right, co-main event time, rematch time. We got my opinion, top two fighters in MMA fighting back to back. It's going to be amazing. Peter Yan minus 475, Aljamain Sterling plus 375.
Ooh,
I started the last one.
yeah.
You can start this one off. What are we thinking?
Oh yeah.
The rematch.
The rematch, long awaited, right? We're 1 year, a little bit more than 1 year out from when they fought last time, and I was on Aljamain Sterling in that first fight, and I definitely came
Easy
away
win.
of that yeah, easy win, but a bit fortunate. Added on that live line as well when it was like in the third and fourth round, and the first two rounds I thought were pretty competitive, and that was Aljamain's. I'm confident in saying this worst day. That was his worst overall day because he can fight that same strategy. There was something off with the guy there. And now I'm not saying that he's going to be perfect in this fight because he had that neck surgery, which by all accounts, significant neck surgery. A lot of people have said, hey, you normally come back and are the same from that, yada, yada, yada. Um, but skill for skill, man, I don't like, or just looking at the fight, I don't really feel Peter Yan looked that good in that fight against Aljamain. There's a reason they call this guy the Funk Master. It's awkward fighting him. I don't think anyone's ever looked good fighting Aljamain Sterling. Not you go down his record. Nobody's ever been comfortable. And I don't think. And if you compare the striking exchanges in the Aljamain fight and in the Sandhagen fight, and you can obviously see that Jan, yeah, he looked great in that fight, but that's what people remember. People remember the last two rounds against Aljamain and then the subsequent 5 rounds against Corey Sandhagen, where he got a really clean kickboxing fight. He's throwing fucking spinning back fists, cracking Corey Sandhagen, kicking him, punching him to the body, and dominating him. And I'll give myself a pat on the back. After fading Peter Yan against Aljo, I was on him against Sandhagen. But yeah, I just think that Aljamain has just way more upside here. I think that, this guy's the best grappler here at 135, super dangerous. Obviously it's hard to get good positions on these bantamweights. Like they're fucking, like high, like they just pop up to their feet, once you do take them down. But one mistake, and you have Aljamain Sterling on your back, and you got a big problem because this guy trains with legitimate guys. He knows all the back Danaher back attack, all this bullshit. And he's crazy strong, crazy squeeze. On the feet, he's got, a lot of weapons, right? He landed like 2 or 3 flying knees on Peter. I mean, Peter Young's got a crazy chin because this guy landed a few flying knees on him. I thought his boxing actually wasn't that bad. It's just he's doing these, like, he's like turning around, like letting Peter Young get behind him. And I don't, it was just a weird fight about Aljamain. He's like diving in on these takedowns. At no point, I think, as opposed to all these other Peter Yan fights where you can see the other guy super uncomfortable on the feet exchanging punches, with Peter Yan and, boxing with him. I didn't really, I thought that Aljamain, out of anyone in the first 2 rounds, especially striking wise, looked the best opposed to Peter Yan. As in, Peter Yan was not finding those big shots as much as he does these other guys, finding those big combination, landing that left body kick, landing that left head kick, throwing leg kicks. I thought that Aljamain had him totally off his game and then just fell off a cliff in that 3rd round. And he definitely had the most success anybody's ever had, other than maybe Aldo in one of those rounds in that 2nd round. So, at +3, I don't think there's a bantamweight on the planet that Aljamain should be +350 or whatever it is against. I mean, you saw our boy Rafion Stotts fight a fellow Russian, right? I'm not comparing, all these guys, but, just like a slight comparison where you see a guy who he's got a lot of attributes, really awkward to fight, and, they're able to just make the fight way uglier than you anticipate. And yeah, so I just think that Aljamain, between the strikes that he's able to put out there, the wrestling that he definitely has in his back pocket, and in the jiu-jitsu game and cardio and physicality that he brings in that fight, he's a different kind of guy. There's nobody like Aljamain Sterling at 135. And I think him being back with Sarah Longo, as opposed to doing all that bullshit that he was doing with Eric Nixick. And bro, Eric Nixick has like 60 fighters. Like, why the fuck are you doing your camp over there and doing all that nonsense, with him and training with all these
It's probably
random
COVID
fucking guys
related.
and all that shit? Whatever it was stupid. It was a dumb decision, I felt. The biggest fight of your life, you're fighting for the fucking title. He's back home. He's, with his people. He's not flying all the way to the west side either. I told guys, Aljamain's undefeated in the East Coast time zone. Look it up, complete fact. It's in the big cage now, so even if Peter Yan is forcing these exchanges and coming forward, I feel like Aljamain's gonna be able to move around him, quite a bit. Use his angles, which Peter Yan, he's a little bit. I'm not saying he's slow, but he's a little not plotting, but like he's like very in his stance. Like he's just coming for. And Aljamain, I think he could be much more mobile. I don't think he's gonna be as with as much anxious energy to like dive onto takedowns because there's so much more room to move. I think he can elect to just circle around instead of diving forward and doing all that. Is Peter Yan probably going to win? Probably, but 350 on Aljamain Sterling for plus 400. Give me that. I'll take the sub prop as well, and I'm hoping to bring that belt back and still to New York. Yeah, I'll roll with Aljamain Sterling here. Just, I mean, I don't think there's anyone that should be this favored over him in an MMA fight.
So I'm pretty confident in Jan to get the job done, and I do agree with some of the points Ozzy made. Where value side before the fight. I mean, I do think it is Sterling. I mean, the recipe for betting Jan is wait 1 round and live bet him, and that I had that same thought process versus Corey Sandhagen, and it came to fruition, magnificently. He was pick him after round 1, and he just completely took over the fight after that point. So he's a slow starter. He downloads that information. He makes the reads. He turns it up as the fight goes. So that's not a good recipe for betting a guy pre-fight because you're going to get a better price, at some point during the fight, 5, 7, 10 minutes in. And I think Sterling will look better than plus 375 early on. The only way he doesn't is if Jan somehow still has his timing, still has those reads from the first fight, and Jan just gets to work right away, landing shots. Maybe I don't think that's a pretty likely outcome, though. I think that Sterling will get off to a decent start. I think the guy did fight pretty well in the first 2 rounds of that fight. versus Jan. But in my opinion, he's got to let off the pressure a little bit. He was so in Jan's face that entire time that it gave Jan a little bit more. I don't even know. It rushed Jan into sitting down on his shots a little bit more. But if Sterling took the fight a little slower, maybe backed up a little bit, was landing those long front kicks of his, those long jabs, and just not constantly feeling like he has to pressure Jan, he could have maybe sustained that success for a little bit longer than he did. So I think he will have similar success here, just because he's so janky, funky. With those long kicks, those with his length. I mean, he's a good athlete. He knows how to use his striking well. But I mean, I do think that Jan is the better overall striker. He's certainly the much harder hitting striker. I think he does much more attritional damage. He rips to the body well and zaps guys' energies out in the later rounds. And he's definitely the better 5 round fighter, right? Way more experience over 5 rounds, better cardio, more damaging striker. And in the first fight, we thought the wrestling was going to be a big deal, right? Aljamain was just coming off of the Corey Sandhagen submission. People thought, and myself included, that Sterling was going to be a real wrestling threat. But to everyone's surprise, I think probably the most shocking moment of that entire fight, or the moments of that fight, were how the wrestling exchanges went and how one sided those exchanges were for Jan. I think Sterling solidified one takedown for a few seconds there, but the majority of the takedowns, the exchanges in the wrestling, were going Jan's way, which was, shocking to see. So now Sterling doesn't have a big portion of that win equity with the takedowns that he had the first time. So it is appropriate that the guy's a much bigger dog than he was the first time. But I do think that plus 375 is getting a bit disrespectful for Sterling. He is still a top 15, 20 fighter in the entire UFC. Still probably the second, third, fourth best bantamweight. I mean, bantamweight is just such a stacked division right now. I mean, they got Dom Cruz, TJ Dillashaw, and Aldo sticking around. They got the new age guys like Jan, Sterling, and Sandhagen. Fonten, Munoz, and Marab and Song Yadong. It's just an insane division, and whoever wins this fight, we're going to get a bunch more amazing fights with them in the future. So I see Sterling getting off to a good start in round 1 or 2, maybe wins one of those rounds, but the power of Peter Yan has the ability to shift this fight at any moment, like we saw in the first fight with that big knockdown. And I really do think Aljamain was concussed after that first knockdown, because you just saw his movement, his balance, his decision making was all off after that first big punch landed. And I think that obviously that's not replicable. It's not going to happen every time they fight. So I think Aljo will hang around for the first round or two. He'll look better than 375, and then look to live bet Peter Yan when the tide starts to turn at some point during the second round. And I think 345 Yan does run away with it. But I don't think he'll finish. It seems like he has the energy and the ability to finish some of these guys, but just doesn't exactly go all out for that finish. He's just methodical. He's a 5 round fighter. He has mastered the art of the 5 round fight. And, I think he'll win this fight, 49, 46, 48, 47 at worst. Look to live bet Jan here. But the pre-fight side is Aljo. Don't go too crazy on Aljamain, because I don't think that he's going to win the fight ultimately. But I think that in terms of a betting strategy, Sterling before the fight, Jan during the fight, and that should be a profitable way. And, speaking of mastering the art of a 5 round fight, we got Volkanovski next. Main event time, featherweight division. The belt is on the line. Champion Volkanovski, minus 800. Chan Sung Jung, the Korean Zombie, coming in a little bit short notice. It was supposed to be Holloway. By the way, his odds are plus 500. It was supposed to be Max Holloway. Holloway got hurt right when the fight was announced. They got Chan Sung Jung in. So Zombie had a full camp. He's not coming in here on real short notice. But, I mean, right off the bat, you got to say that the guy does not deserve this title shot at all. I mean, he got demolished by Brian Ortega over 5 rounds. He got one win, and now he's fighting the champion Volkanovski. Meanwhile, Arnold Allen is on a 9-fight win streak and still not the number one contender. So Jung doesn't really deserve to be here in the first place. And Man, I just don't see a lot of avenues for Zombie. This fight sadly doesn't interest me a whole lot. I mean, I love Volkanovski. I love watching him fight, but I don't know. I just don't see much of a path for Zombie here. Maybe Ozzy, you have some more faith than I do, but I think Zombie's gonna need a knockout in round one or two. We have seen Volkanovski get buzzed early on. Mendez dropped him. Holloway dropped him a few times, but I just think the longer the fight goes, Volkanovski is just so comprehensively better. He's great as the fight goes on, has an insane gas tank. He is elite in all areas of the fight, in offensive and defensive grappling. His boxing is tremendous. His ground and pound is great. We saw his submission defense was amazing versus Brian Ortega. I mean, to this day, no idea how he got out of those submission attempts. The guillotine was really deep. The triangle was completely locked in. I mean, just masterful defense on that triangle to defend that. And Volkanovski is the pound for pound number one right now, in my opinion. And I think round one or two has the potential to be close. Jung does have some power in his hands early on, but I think that power fades really quickly. I think that the grappling success that Zombie had against Ige won't be there against Volkanovski. And I would be eternally shocked to see Volkanovski lose this fight. But if you have any faith in Zombie, FanDuel is hanging knockout round one, round two at 14 to 1 odds. That's the way the guy has to win. I think he needs an early finish, or Volkanovski's just going to run away with it in 3, 4, 5. And I think Volkanovski will get a finish. The guy is so tenacious with his ground and pound, his pace, his cardio is so good. He could have finished the Ortega fight multiple times. And I think we're going to see a Volkanovski 3, 4, 5 finish here. So I'll pick him to get it done by late finish.
So very interesting. This is actually kind of an interesting fight to me, just because Zombie's a fucking madman. I mean, you don't get that nickname by mistake. And I mean, bro, this is the last title shot. Like, you're not getting another title shot, at all. So you got to go for it. Like, I'm gonna be really disappointed if I don't see Korean Zombie just trying to walk down, Volkanovski. And I'm really hoping Volkanovski doesn't come out with his. I mean, Volk. One, he pissed me off because I was on Brian Ortega submission for significant dollars, and somehow this guy doesn't finish any of those submissions. Insane. The one thing that freaking saved Volk was that he went to his back when Brian got that guillotine, because Brian wanted to go to guard, and if he goes to guard, this guy's asleep. But anyway, um, you know, I just didn't like Volk, all these like throwing all these leg kicks and stuff like that. I'm like, man, this is corny, dude. Like, you're the best. Go fuck these dudes up. And I think I'm gonna be honest. I think it's kind of fraudulent for people to be like Volkanovski's the best fighter in the world. I don't feel that way. I just think that he fights optimally to get W's. Like, I just think that's what he does. Like, Brian Ortega, as much as I love the dude, the dude was fighting Volkanovski in a prolonged 5 round fight, and he just cuts too much weight to make one to be performing, at the conditioning, at the pace of someone like Volkanovski. So I actually think it was a decent matchup for him there. Whereas Korean Zombie is a good matchup for Brian Ortega, because he usually sometimes fights a little slower, and that's what ended up happening in their fight. But he needs to completely change that up here, because I think his only chance here is a knockout victory. But he did show that wrestling in his last fight, although obviously Volkanovski is a much higher level grappler than Ige is, much stronger as well. But I just really hope that Korean Zombie is coming forward, looking to sling leather. I'm looking at this guy's pad work. It's looking a little sloppy to me, if I'm being honest, like a little loose. But maybe that's the strategy. It's like, hey man, like, let's throw these shots in a way where, one, you're comfortable with them, but two, it is presenting opportunities for Volkanovski, because we need to draw this guy's offense out. If you just let Volkanovski chip away, fight at his pace, and his shots, he's gonna pot shot you all day. And that's what he did to Brian Ortega. He pot shotted him, tired him out, did all this stuff, and then he started smashing him on the ground. But I don't think the Volkanovski is going to have the same kind of success getting on top of Korean Zombie. I could be wrong on that, but I just feel like Korean Zombie is going to refuse to be held down in like these guard positions and shit like that. Like, if it comes to that where Volkanovski is taking him down, I think Korean Zombie is more likely to like just try to get up and like give up his back or give up like a very dominant position, as opposed to like Brian did, where he was like laying on his back and just getting bombed on for significant portions of that fight. So I don't know. I just feel like I think people overrate the margins in which Volkanovski's really winning these fights. Even in the first like 2 or 3 rounds against Ortega. Like, did he really like was he really dominating that like did you think that it was like a clear win the round
I
one?
did.
You did.
I did.
You thought you were like, oh, right, but did you come away with that being like, all right, he's gonna find this finish, like fighting the way he was in like round one? I just
Hey everybody, unfortunately there was a little bit of an audio problem during this portion of the podcast. About 30 to 60 seconds of Ozzy's main event analysis got cut out, so I apologize about that, and we roughly start back where we left off here in a second. All right, we got briefly disconnected by the recording there at the end. So Ozzy, you were saying something about
yeah, I'm gonna
prop.
make the smallest bet of my life on Zombie and hope that he wins.
Yeah, I mean,
So my boy Ortega could get a rematch.
yeah, I think you do got to take a little bit of those zombie early finish props just in case something chaotic happens. I mean, uh,
Or someone did tell me that no scorecards
three to
for
one.
Zombie was yeah, pretty good.
Yeah, I agree with that. He has no chance to win a decision. So that's gonna do it for these fights. Sorry if we went a little long on some of these ones, but they're good fights. The high level fights, pay-per-view cards, pay-per-view podcasts are always gonna be longer. We got 13 fights, and last thing we got to do, best bet of the week. Ozzy already mentioned his. Go ahead and mention it one more time.
Mackenzie Dern, money line. Try to lay as little juice as possible. You got to take inside the distance and the sub prop as well. But officially, we'll go with the money line.
All right, and I was kind of debating on which one I'm going with. I'm going with actually with something out of left field here. I'm going Jared-Vanderaa money line. You know, how do you feel
Wow,
about that?
wow. I feel
Bold,
good. I
right?
mean, I feel it's very bold, but I feel okay about it. Like, I mean, bro, Oleinik at some point got to slow down. Like, come on, like, what's going on?
Oh,
Like, come
yeah,
on.
he's slowing. He's slowing.
And
So
is Vandera's like wildly young? He's like 29.
that's plus 260 odds, near pick 'em on both odds. So good odds on this one. Plus 260. Last week's one, Nicolau and Diakiese. So let's keep this fucking ball rolling. It's a great card. Hope you all enjoy the card this weekend. Thanks to my man Ozzy for joining me as always, and it's good to be back. I think there's like eight or 9 weeks of UFC in a row, so we'll be
MMA season. I
we'll
want
be
to
grinding out
mention
podcasts.
something.
Go
I
ahead.
want to mention something for next week, the Bellator card. I am gonna do some kind of I like that card. I'm gonna do some kind of maybe like 20-30 minute breakdown on it, audio wise. So we'll see. Might be Twitter spaces, might be podcasts on the Martians feed, something, but I'm gonna talk break down that card and try to go over most of the fights there.
That sounds fun. The UFC pays me to be, exclusive to them, but Ozzy does have that good Bellator analysis. So you look out for that next week, and we'll see you all before the next UFC podcast. Thank you all for listening. Hope you all enjoy 273, and hope you all win some bets, drop some likes, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And we'll see you all before next week. Peace out.
Later.